Welcome, everybody. It's another podcast with the Pennsylvania Medical Cannabis Society. We're into mid-May now. It's been almost a month since the governor signed the bill, and the first major event after the signing was in Philadelphia. Greenhouse Ventures, LLC, was the host of just a fantastic event. It had all kinds of speakers. Greenhouse Ventures is a business accelerator pertaining to the cannabis industry, and I'm so happy to have Tyler Dautrich. Did I pronounce your name correctly? Dautrich?
Dautrich.
Dautrich. Okay. Tyler, it's great to have you on today. I'm really happy that we can have a chance to recap your event.
Yeah, thanks for having me. It's a pleasure.
You bet. So give us a little bit of, first off, talk a little bit about your business, your LLC, and exactly what kind of things you do.
Yeah. So Greenhouse Ventures is a business accelerator specific for ancillary startups in the cannabis and industrial hemp industry. So what we offer is essentially a 10-week boot camp 2 times a year for startups that are in the cannabis industry or industrial hemp industry, but don't have a direct relationship with the plant. And we put the startups through 90 hours of curriculum that's geared towards building their business and raising their first round of capital. And then at the end of the 10-week program, we host a demo day, which is a live public pitch event for these entrepreneurs to get their first opportunity to get in front of the investment community.
So kind of a Shark Tank sort of a situation then.
Yeah, that's how demo day ends up playing out. Very similar.
Cool. That's really awesome. How'd you come up with the idea for putting this event together? What was the ultimate goal?
So the ultimate goal was to bring the best business practices that are happening in the Midwest and West Coast in this industry here to the East Coast. We felt that to date, a lot of the conversation here on the East Coast about this industry was very medical focused. So should we legalize medical cannabis? How should we regulate it? What type of qualifying conditions should we have on the list? And there wasn't much business talk. And there's a huge opportunity for the business side of this industry. And now that we have a lot of these states finally coming on, whether it's Pennsylvania who just legalized, or you have states like New Jersey who are finally getting into the full swing of their program, we felt that there was a major need for the business presence of this industry to come out here to the East Coast. And we wanted to bring some of these industry thought leaders out here to do so.
Well, I can tell you, it was you did a good job with that. You had 20 speakers or so. There was 5 panels, 4 speakers on each panel, and I love the format where you had a moderator who was also quite interesting and knowledgeable in the industry, or that aspect, was asking the questions. So it was really, I find the conversations are a lot better way for people to learn sometimes than just having a speaker talking. So that was, congrats on that format. I think it really worked well. Let's talk about some of the key points that were made. What were some of the things that really stood out for you?
So right off the bat, what really interested me was Leslie Boxscore from Electrum Partners. He really highlighted the opportunity of industrial hemp. And I think obviously that's a little outside of the cannabis industry, but they're related. And I think specifically here for us in Pennsylvania, the opportunity for industrial hemp is extreme. PA's history is just so rich with this industry. We were the leading producers of it during the World War II era. And I think that once this is accepted and able to be grown and manufactured at a scale level, the opportunities are going to be tremendous. And I think it'll be a huge environmental and economic shift. So that was a big takeaway. I think it was very interesting, the technology guys that were there, because I don't think technology is very understood in this industry. And I think when people think of technology, they think of social media technology, but it's much more advanced than that. And you saw that with people like MyDX and Popotics and Canacorp and everybody else that was there from the technology side. They were great tech guys there.
Absolutely. The technology side, I have to say, was really, really fascinating. And that leads me to the one point I think that is really important on the medical side, is that the medical people said that dosage is the holy grail of medical cannabis. And you can't have dosage unless you have the technology that takes the whole plant product and just, breaks it down into something that's measurable and testable, and so that the doctors know specifically exactly what's going into their patients' bodies. The big problem right now is that there's so little testing, so little technology, as you say, that there really needs to be a lot more. That was one of the things I noticed, that the top three hottest investments: biotech, cultivation, and infused products. Is that your recollection?
Yeah, yep. I think that's what Scott Greiper from Viridian Capital Advisors mentioned.
Sure. Now, on your ancillary businesses, those are mostly the businesses that don't actually touch the plant, as people said. Is that true?
Correct. Yeah. Besides the infused products, obviously, but
obviously,
yes,
right. But as a business investment, sure. And what about in the areas of finance and investment? The problem with banks. I mean, some of that was addressed. What were some of the key points you remember from that?
That it's just still extremely risky, and that it's difficult whether you're a plant-based company or an ancillary-based company. No matter what, you're at risk if you're in this industry, and especially if you have any type of cannabis, marijuana, or weed in your name or 420. It's extremely difficult to hold a bank account, which is obviously a huge hindrance to this industry. And come November, we could have more than half this country that has some type of legal cannabis laws in effect. And I truly feel that the government's going to have to take some type of stance on this, because you can't allow an industry to continue to grow past the majority number of states and still not allow people to have a regular bank account. It slows down the growth, and it doesn't really allow full growth in a full industry to take effect.
And that was another one of the key points that I came away with, is just the size of the cannabis industry right now, somewhere near $6 billion. And in 4 years, by 2020, they're expecting it to be $23 billion. So it's going to quadruple nearly in 4 years. Like you say, something's going to break at the seams somewhere when it comes to the banking and the investments and so forth. Give me a sense of the kind of people that were in the room during the event.
Yeah, so we had a bunch of entrepreneurs. There were a bunch of business professionals, so legal, lawyers, CPAs, accountants, investors, obviously. But what I was really surprised and really happy to see is that the number of medical professionals that were actually in the room too, whether it was doctors or researchers or whatever in the medical field, regardless. I was extremely happy and surprised to see such a strong medical presence there, because that is like a holy grail to this industry. Like, we need medical professionals to come in and validate this industry as a medicine for us to continue to move it forward. So it was great to see them there trying to expand their knowledge and education on the industry.
And that's absolutely right. You put your finger right on it, because one of the statistics I came away with is in New Jersey, where there are 20,000 physicians who could be recommending cannabis. Only 200 have signed up for the program so far. And that is not going to create a sustainable industry.
Exactly. I think that's the major problem with not only these East Coast markets, but a lot of the markets in medical cannabis that you see that got off to a slow start, is there's a major disconnect between education to doctors and then doctors to patients. That disconnect is massive, and you see states not only here on the East Coast, but states like Illinois, where no one was prescribing medicine for this, and then you had dispensaries that were just in a stalemate for months on end because there were no doctors prescribing, and hence there were no patients to go buy the medicine.
Yeah, it makes it frustrating for people who invested, say, in the New York industry.
Oh, absolutely.
Millions it grows, and now there's 2,600 patients in the entire state of New York.
It's ridiculous. Yeah, the education for doctors, not only to know how to get involved and how to prescribe this, but for them to just increase their own knowledge on medical cannabis as a medicine so they can speak more educably to it to their patients is much needed, very much needed.
Yeah, I agree. That was I think the major thing I came away with from the whole conference was that you had 5 different panels, 5 different aspects of the industry, and every single aspect is in the Wild West stage. The science is all over the map. The finance and the regulations and the legal aspects are all over the map. Patients' organizations are moving in different directions. And like you say, the educational need is so massive. I met with a doctor a couple nights ago, and I asked him, how many doctors do you know understand the endocannabinoid system and how it functions? And he literally gave me a blank stare and said, they never taught it in medical school.
Jeez, great. And that proves it. That proves it.
Right, right there is like, there's the crux of the problem.
Absolutely.
So this is a really fast-paced industry. Tell us a little bit about what's happened since your conference. If any new connections made, any big goals that were achieved. How is your organization doing now?
Good. So it's been great for a number of reasons. We've heard from not only, we've seen an uptick in interest in what we're doing here in Pennsylvania from both the company or entrepreneurs looking to get in the plant side of the industry and both entrepreneurs looking to get on the ancillary side. So that's great. Obviously, we would like to see leads come out of whatever we do. So it's nice to see that we had some leads come out of it. But what was more important from us is we got feedback saying that people thought they learned more in those, whatever, I think it was 8 or 9 hours of the conference than they did in their entire life in this industry, which is perfect. Our main goal was to bring a massive amount of education over here to the East Coast so that these emerging states could catch on a little bit to what's been going on in the West. And thirdly, what's really nice to hear is we've heard from some of our first connections and secondary connections that they made great connections there that they would have never known about. And even here for our people that live in Philly, they met people in Philly that they're now doing business with that they never knew were here before. So we love seeing that people have come together for a common cause and found a common interest and are now working together.
Yeah. I tell you, it's really fantastic. We find the same things at our networking events. It's just people want to understand every aspect of the industry, and everything is so fast-paced and so changing and so Wild West. I got to tell you, I pinch myself most mornings I get up. It's so exciting to be part of this industry.
Absolutely.
So you're not dealing directly then so much with people that are seeking the licenses, or how involved are you with that?
So our Accelerator program, our 10-week, 90-hour curriculum program, does not work with companies who are dealing with the plant, just because our curriculum isn't tailored to deal with those specifics, which is obviously major difference from dealing outside of the plant.
Sure.
However, if companies are looking for more of a business consultant relationships, we are open to working with a few potential license holder application or applicants in that type of respect, because we can provide that general business consultant for a lot of these people who need help bringing the core business aspect of applying for the license together. But as far as, like I said, accepting into the Accelerator program, it's strictly ancillary side. And that's just because, one, there wasn't a market here in Pennsylvania to do this before like a month ago. And two, our curriculum isn't exactly tailored to that niche of the industry yet, but we are looking in the next 2 years or so to add on that second curriculum so we can work with plant-based companies.
Well, that's awesome. Yeah, because in as we know from the law, in 2 years after it's enacted, there'll be another reevaluation. There'll be more grows, more dispensaries, and that sort of thing.
Mm-hmm.
So It's fantastic. So where should people be right now? I mean, we got about 6 months before the regulations come out. Teams that want to get into the business, what should they be doing specifically?
I think you said it. It's teams. You got to find a team that you can work with. I think obviously it costs a little bit of money to get in this, a little bit more money than probably your average person has. And it's made purposely for that. We can't have, this is an industry that has a lot of eyes on it right now, just because it is a new industry and it still has a very bad stigma attached to it. So we can't have just anybody applying for these licenses. It needs to be reputable people who can manage and grow and build a sustainable industry and be that almost every business should want to be that poster child for the industry of how it should be done properly. So I think getting out there and building your core team of everybody that you need, whether it's on the financial side of things, whether it's on the actual medical side of things, because you need to have medical professionals attached to either your core team or in your employment. And obviously you need someone who knows the ins and out of cultivation and dispensing. Like that's a huge aspect that's new here to Pennsylvania. So me personally, I think team building is huge in this stage, because in order to move forward, I believe that you need to have everything in your own house completely together to have a good chance at this. So that would be my recommendation, is really getting out there, doing a real evaluation of yourself and what you're good at and what your weaknesses are, and who can you best align yourself with to counteract your weaknesses and their weaknesses.
Sure. That's great advice. I remember from the another line I picked up from your conference was pick your team carefully.
Mm-hmm.
Board, the management, and the investors are all going to be put under a microscope.
Absolutely. Like I said, this industry has a bad stigma still attached to it, and everyone's trying to break that stigma. But again, that comes with a microscope lens. So you have to make sure everyone's in line from top to bottom.
Yeah, great. Well, I know your organization and ours are both working towards integrity and sustainability for the entire industry. So I give you kudos for that. And got any estimates on how many teams you think are going to go after licenses? You got any guesses?
I think it's going to be a lot more than we expect. I think the Pennsylvania market has attracted a lot more both in-state interest and out-of-state interest than I even expected. And that's just from me hearing people at our conference, going to the MJ BizCon conference down in Florida this past week. There's a lot more interest both inside the state and outside the state than I would have thought of, especially this early. I mean, sure, Pennsylvania has the opportunity to be a huge market, probably top 5 in the country if it's implemented and regulated properly. But because it's Pennsylvania and because we're probably facing very tight regulations, I didn't expect to see so much interest right off the bat, but it seems like it's there. So I do believe competition is going to be stiff, and I do believe we're going to see a lot more applicants than we initially thought.
Well, and I think part of that might be because even though it's some criticism and it's not a perfect law, the law is so well crafted, according to the lawyers that we've talked to, that it's very patient friendly, and they think it could well be the framework of the blueprint for a good and sustainable industry.
Yeah, and I'm glad you brought that up too, because there's a lot of arguments on, is this a good bill, is this a bad bill, or we should have waited and fought for a better bill. Is it the best bill that we could have gotten? Probably not. But is it better than where we were a month ago? Yes. I think we could have gotten a lot worse bill if you look at states that started before us, like Illinois and New Jersey. We could have had a lot worse bill than what we have right now. This allows us to finally step into the industry, get a market rolling and operating, and then prove that we can do this. It's sustainable, and it's helping both the patient and medical side of the PA, and it's also helping the economy side of PA. And once you can do that, you can lobby to expand this industry, which is much better than trying to fight for a perfect bill right out of the gate, in my opinion.
Yeah, I agree. And I think that one of the key things was that there's going to be eight licenses that are matched to research.
Yes.
And the research aspect of this, I think, is going to really help drive that weakest link, which is the doctors, which don't want to recommend.
Absolutely. And I think that's huge. I'm so glad that they did that too. And I mean, you just, I don't know if you saw, but the Ravens lineman, I believe.
Yes,
just donated $80,000 to UPenn to do further research in medical cannabis. That's what's needed. That type of relationship with universities, research institutions, and the medical cannabis industry is really, in my opinion, what's going to advance this industry. And specifically here in Philadelphia, I'm obviously a little biased to Philly because I'm here, but look, you have Jefferson, you have Penn, and you have Temple, all within a couple miles radius of each other, if even a couple miles. The opportunity to create a medical research hub is right here. And what does this industry need, and what's every critic against this industry biggest complaint is there's no research. So I think bringing research to light is key for this industry to move forward. Yeah. And I'm glad to see professional athletes now paying for it, and I think that trend should continue, and I hope it does.
Well, and again, from your conference, 2 lines I remember is Dr. Michelle Ross, I think, said that it's going to take 100 years of research to get our minds around even the beginning of how this plant works. Part of the reason for that is there's 250 to 300 compounds that have medicinal qualities that they've identified so far, and there could be hundreds more. And there's evidence that it works not split out as an individual compound, but it works as an entourage medicine where it needs all the other compounds in order for it to work efficiently.
Absolutely. I totally agree. I think we are in the very, very, very early stages of understanding the true value that this plant could have to offer, and we just need more research.
Yep, I agree. Well, this is great, Tyler. I really appreciate you coming on. Is there any specific thing that we didn't talk about that you want to mention?
No, really appreciate you guys having me on. I really appreciate you guys being the network sponsor for the Innovation in the Cannabis Industry event.
That's right.
And for everyone watching, we will be hosting our next event in August. So stay tuned for details as that comes out.
That was my next question. Oh, yeah, and how about video from the last one, especially Dalen Leach's?
Yeah, Dalen Leach. Yeah, he might have stole the show. Absolutely. Yeah, we will be hopefully putting video out within the next week or two. We're still working on getting all of that, obviously edited and clipped down, but that definitely is coming out for sure.
That's awesome. Well, Tyler, thanks very much for being with us today on the podcast.
Oh, my pleasure. Thanks for having me.